Hello, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ebony, and this is his
And hers, Warhammer 40K. Yay!
We're back.
We're back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy post-holiday holidays.
We're running a little late on getting this finished.
Do we have news?
Do we have news?
Oh, I published a story. I published a short
Yeah?
story. Yeah, so in a recent Cold Open Stories fan fiction call for stories about time, I published a short story called Flashpoint, but there's also a bunch of other really awesome authors in it, so go read Cold Open Stories.
ColdOpenStories.com.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2023.
2023, a lot of books on the docket, but for now we'll be discussing Day of Ascension by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Which you were really excited to read.
So he is an author that I have not read before, but is famous for other non-40K book series. Like, he is a known entity in literature.
Okay.
This was an interesting take on what is a fairly simple concept. I found this book to be pretty plain.
I would agree with that.
In that it was really just Adeptus Mechanicus fighting Gene Stealer cults.
Yes.
With the how and the whys. And it almost harkens back to 40K books that came out around 20 years ago, where they really all sort of filled this same style of they existed to tell a specific battle between two factions, the end.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that that's what it was. I didn't feel like there were twists or surprises.
Oh, there was a twist. I didn't think it was a good one.
Okay. For a while I thought, oh, are we not supposed to know that these are Gene Stealers? Because I know these are Gene Stealers.
We're supposed to know that they're Gene Stealers. In general, that is a common theme in most Gene Stealer cult focused stories.
Okay.
Is that
we know, and it is the irony of them not knowing. Okay. Yeah, I was like, okay, they're Gene Stealers. Yeah, yes. I didn't. Yeah, I would give it like a solid 6.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I push it to 7, but the more I think about it, probably 6 is better.
I really appreciated the Mechanicus main character.
Yes.
I will say that I didn't like any of the characters, but I enjoyed his presentation
to be honest,
the most.
I don't understand people that need to like characters to enjoy a story.
I don't, but I mean,
maybe a little bit of a shout out, but
no, I like it better.
I don't need to care.
I was going to say, I don't need to like them. In fact, I like a story better when I hate all the characters, like when I actively hate them. What I meant by I didn't like any of these characters is like, I didn't care. I don't care if you die. I don't care if you live. I don't care what you're fighting about. Like, I just felt like, meh.
I cared about Triskelion.
He's the one
that I like the most. He was the one that I cared about because you relate to him the most.
Yes. I enjoyed his presentation. I enjoyed he's very much like, I am a Genitor, I'm into genes, and the rest of the Mechanicus is like...
Genitor.
Genitor?
Yes.
I've been saying...
It is not Genitor, it is Genitor.
I don't think I've been saying Genitor, but...
I'm positive.
I feel like Genitor is wrong. We'll go with it. We'll trust you.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I was into his sort of like, man, I really need this grant to fund this research, and the rest of the Mechanicus...
The opening chapter resonated very strongly with anyone in the science field.
Yeah, and everyone being like, your research is not novel, nor is it impressive, and we're not giving you any money by. I appreciated that. But yeah, just as a being, I wouldn't say I liked him, but I was the least neutral about him, so I was into it. Yeah.
So, as an overview, the novel takes place on the Forge world of Murad.
In the city of Octorides?
Yes.
Yeah. That's how I was saying it in my head. It could be Ocrates.
I don't remember. I didn't actually have the city written down. Basically, Murad is a fairly minor forge world that primarily outputs raw materials and Skitarii legions. You know, not a particularly important world, just sort of modicum output from it.
I did love that setting, right? I feel like I haven't read a lot of that, so I did enjoy the sort of human/Gene Stealer point of view of like how grimdark it is to be on a forge world, right? Like it's the air is toxic and everyone is dying of cancer and you're going to work, right? I appreciated that. Sort of the setting was great.
This is the case for a lot of hive
Yes.
worlds too.
But
Like,
I felt like, I don't know, it was well presented, and I
yes,
enjoyed that.
yes.
Yeah.
I was empathetic with, the Gene Stealer characters
Mm-hmm.
and the living conditions that they were under. I still didn't care about them as characters, not particularly.
Yeah, so I guess you're going into the story. So we're in this Forge world, and obviously the people who live there and work there are under the stress of living in these terrible conditions. And our main character, Davian, has a brother who's sick, who has been seeing a doctor, and that's sort of and that character relationship at least is a little bit.
There is some emotion.
Yeah, there's a little bit of emotion there. It's not, neither of them is characterized well enough to really make it strong and make it like hit home, but it's almost there.
With I liked the Mechanicus side because it felt like a novel approach to the Mechanicus.
Yes.
Like we have seen some political elements to this before, but this felt like real vicious.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot. I liked, having this faction that was downplayed alongside, Barzulum,
Barzulin, the
fabricator general of Murad,
who is a giant bell with
Yes.
a bunch of tiny feet, which
Yes.
sounds adorable and also terrifying.
almost Alice in Wonderland-esque.
Yeah.
I was getting that feeling.
He's got like a little head, and his body is shaped like a bell, and he's got all these little tiny feet, which makes me uncomfortable, but also I love it.
Yes. All of the Mechanicus side of it,
Yeah.
it felt novel to me. Whereas when I look at, on the Gene Stealer side, you have this group known as the Congregation of the Divine Union. Every character of them, I could pinpoint back to a unit on the tabletop. Claresse is their magus. Is it Neem?
Neem, her
Neem
brother, yeah.
is an abominant.
Yeah.
Dr. Testling is a biophagus. Sakiri, who's like this assassin that's sent out and becomes the hero of the congregation, is a Kellermorph.
Yeah.
There's even the Atalan jackals that show up for a scene.
Yeah.
It's all just tabletop units.
I mean, you gotta sell those units.
I know. I just...
You just wanted more characters and less
Yeah.
descriptions of things you should buy.
Less like, this is exactly what I imagined that unit to be.
Look like, yeah.
With
Okay.
like a template almost.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
This whole story, I feel like I would have loved it as maybe a paragraph in the Gene Stealer Cult Codex.
Yeah.
Not less so as a novel.
Yeah. But we'll tell you the story anyway.
Right. So you have this underpopulation that is really being worked to death in terrible conditions.
And they're like long planning an uprising. Like their magus is saying like eventually our day will come. You have to, we have sent out this assassin who's the Kellermorph, who like maybe will kill the fabricator general, and if she does, then we'll stage an uprising, and if she doesn't, we'll pretend we don't know about that. And so I guess we'll start there. She misses and gets captured by Triskelion. And now he is sort of on the trail of who's trying to kill the fabricator general and why, because also he hates the fabricator general because he won't fund his research. And so he's like, well, maybe I should encourage this uprising a little bit, and if that happens, it could destabilize the Forge world and he could become fabricator general. So he's kind of invested in their uprising, but he is Mechanicus, so in his mind, even if he let them have an uprising, he'd be able to tamp that down immediately because he's better than that, right? So he has this hubris about letting this uprising start, and that is kind of where those two factions intersect.
Right. On the Gene Stealer side, you have Davian, who is basically trying to track down what happens to her brother, who, as part of the response to this assassination attempt, they go on, I guess, a purge or like a collection of, the
like districts. They go through
Yeah,
each district.
they go through each district, collect a handful of the unwanted.
Yeah, like people who are really sick or have really terrible mutations because of their living condition. And they're going to turn them into Skitarii, I think is the plan.
No, they're not. They're literally just going to pour molten metal on them as part of a celebration.
Yeah, they're having this party.
This is the purging of the parts of society that are weak.
Yeah.
And in traditional way to do that, you do it very publicly and as painfully as possible on anyone who is disabled or has, mental health issues or has like mutations. Something that the book doesn't explicitly state, but it's something that should be mentioned, is there are a lot of just regular mutations in, these under societies. Forget any gene stealer or Xenos element to it.
Yeah, everything is radioactive. Like, everyone just has cancer.
Yeah, just like your limbs grow improperly.
Yeah.
Wrong organs form.
You have extra toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, these are not chaos corruption. They are not Xenos corruption. They are chemical corruption.
Yeah.
But because of the beliefs of both the Imperium and actually an Orthodox Forge world like Murad, the corruption of the flesh is corruption of the soul.
Yeah, so murder everyone. So they drag her brother away, but at the same time, what Triskelion has really been working on as part of his sort of biologic program to make better Skitarii is ways to make flesh work better and stronger. And so he's got Neem, Davian's brother, who's got like all these crazy mutations, and he's got the Kellermorph assassin, who's like super strong and resilient, and he's trying to find ways to use their genetics to make Skitarii, to make better weapons. And so he wants to be able to harvest this information from them, and also at the same time destabilize the Forge world so that he can become the Fabricator General.
Yeah, so Triskelion has this kind of crazy idea to, I guess, wrangle the Xenos genetics within this gene stealer cult to incorporate them into Skitarii.
Yeah.
Which
sounds like a good idea.
No, it's a terrible idea. Like, it is...
The biologist in me says, try it.
No, this is a terrible idea.
It might work.
We know it is Tyranid genetic code,
yes,
which you can't tame.
No.
Like, you can't. It doesn't work
know
that way.
Though.
Right. He doesn't know that, though. Most of the Imperium does not directly associate gene stealers with Tyranids.
Right. Yeah.
So what happens next?
So somehow Davian becomes in charge of this revolution. Like, so the Magus tells her, well, we failed. Neem's been taken. The Kellermorph is dead. Like, we just have to go back into our little hole and wait until it's the next time that we can have an uprising. And she's not having it. She's like, but they took my brother and he's the only person I love. And they took Dr. Teslig? I think it's Teslig. Tesling. They took Dr. Tesling, who's been working on her brother and like trying to save him, but it's not working. And she's like, I'm going to like free them. So she like creeps in. So she has been working in the sort of lab, I'm going to call it institute, where Triskelion is. So she like creeps in through the ducts, which I think is a really great scene, and sees him experimenting on both the Kellermorph and her brother. And like she brought that back to the Magus, and the Magus is like, we don't have time for that. So she goes back on her own and breaks in, and they escape.
When did Triskelion make the deal? They don't break in.
So they escape, and he chases them back to their home, and like...
No, she brings him to her home, openly. Like, they have a Skitarii escort.
Oh, I thought he got there on his own with his Skitarii escort.
No.
And then he makes the deal with the Magus.
He makes the deal with her. She presents the deal to the Magus. And everyone in the congregation hates her.
No one likes her.
For making this deal. Like, they did not escape. She did not get chased back. No, she got cornered and made a deal with him. Well, you completely misremembered that.
I missed that, yeah. But the deal is that he will let them in to kill the Fabricator General because that's what they want to do and like have their uprising. But in his mind, he'll let them in. They'll kill the Fabricator General. He will show up and kill them and save the day and become the Fabricator General, and then use all of his Skitarii powers to put down this uprising and become revered as the savior of Morad. And obviously that doesn't go to plan.
It almost goes to plan. So
Yes.
I did like the celebration element where you have this big Colosseum type area. You have everyone in this jar that's going to be poured into like molten
lava.
metal.
Yeah.
That gets broken open. Everyone is just seizes weaponry or
It's
tools
like a
or
full-on
whatever they
brawl,
can
yeah.
and starts murdering everyone.
Yeah.
And the Skitarii get brought in to try and handle this.
Yeah. And the leader of the Skitarii is Tangram?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, there's two different groups of Skitarii. There's the newly raised Skitarii, and then there is a returning force of Skitarii that the planet sent out, I guess, decades ago.
Yeah.
That is returning to have the new Skitarii incorporated into them.
Yeah.
It's these new Skitarii that Triskelion has hacked into almost in order to manipulate them to take his orders.
Yeah. Because he's in charge of planning this celebration because the Fabricator General hates him.
Yes.
He got voluntold to be the master of ceremonies for this celebration, and that gives him this like modicum of power. So he's been like rewriting the Skitarii so that they listen to him above all orders, because he wants to be able to like let enough uprising happen and then shut it down.
Which Berzulam figures out.
Yes.
And takes back control and
Yeah.
is able to shut down most of the plan
Yes.
because of that. And while he is lording it over, I'm trying to remember.
The Kellermorph's name?
No. Is she the one who kills him in the end? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Sakiri gets freed.
And she kills him.
Does
yeah.
manage to kill him. However, Triskelion tries to retake control of the Skitarii, only for the big twist at the end,
Dun, dun, dun.
which is that the Skitarii that were sent out previously were
members of the congregation.
basically were harvested from 5th generation gene stealer cults.
So they're evil. Evil!
I don't like this twist.
It wasn't that great.
I feel like that's the kind of thing that would have been checked when you're making Skitarii.
I guess. Mm.
Like, that, unless the congregation, unless, like, Megas Clarisse had come and said, like, this was something that we had planned ages ago, like, people volunteered to be taken for this purpose.
Yeah, that would have made it better.
Yeah.
No, it's just, like, happened by accident.
It's just like, oh, you've been harvesting from us all along, and so they're on our side instead. I didn't like that.
And then they kill everyone.
Yes, and then they take control. The congregation takes control. And Davian gets chosen to lead the cult out with the Skitarii to basically found the cult on other planets.
Yeah, which she's not thrilled about, but that's because everyone hates her. Which you're right. That explains why everyone hates her, because she made this deal with Triskelion.
So she will not become part of the Divine Union.
Yeah.
Which in the book is presented as this sad event. If you know how gene stealer cults work.
Isn't it when the Tyranids show up and eat everyone?
Yes and no. So when the Tyranids show up, usually two things happen. Either everyone is fully on board with it, they're like full mind control, full brainwashing, and there's literal pools of like
Parts. Genetic parts?
No. Like acid that everyone just kind of walks into in order to, like, almost stomach acid.
Oh, to make a soup.
Yeah.
For the eating.
Yes,
Got
to
it.
be broken down.
I was
into.
right.
So that is like the voluntary way.
The non-voluntary way is we eat you.
Well, the non-voluntary way is one thing that never gets brought up in this book for the most part is the Patriarch.
Uh-huh.
The Patriarch is the original gene stealer that founds the cult.
So I think they mention like the oldest aunts and uncles in their caverns.
So those
but they
are
don't,
first generations.
they never describe them well.
So first generations are quite gene stealery.
Okay.
The original gene stealer, though, literally grows to 10 feet tall and about 2.5 tons.
Yeah, that person never appeared.
Yeah, like they almost become kind of like an ant queen type role.
Yeah.
But you've seen like normal gene stealers.
Yes, with the tongues.
Yeah. Like they blow up almost like a balloon.
Okay. Lovely.
Right.
Yeah, that's not in this book.
When the Tyranids show up, the patriarch reverts to a feral form.
Okay.
Because normally this whole time, and actually it is mentioned a little bit that there's like a voice in her head.
Yeah.
And sometimes like it's not them speaking.
Yeah.
That is the patriarch speaking.
Ah, okay.
Like when they are in patriarch form, they are quite psychic.
Okay.
You know, they can control the cult fairly well.
Okay.
Or like push themselves out.
Okay.
All of that goes away when the Tyranids show up, and the hive mind reasserts control.
Gotcha.
And everyone is like, what is happening?
Yeah.
If they are not on board with what is happening, then they try and run. Most of the time that doesn't work. Occasionally they manage to get off world.
Okay.
But, you know, that those are the most common 2 outcomes.
Okay. Acid eating or fighting.
Yes.
And then eating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's still a solid, like a 6. Like if you are interested in reading about gene stealers, and if you're interested in reading about the Mechanicus from a sort of unique point of view where they're not all awesome and everything is perfect and the machine god is working well, then I would say it's good for that. But as far as like a mystery thriller story, I would say it falls a little flat in that department.
Yeah, like 6.5.
Yeah,
I'll give it that.
I'll give it a solid 6. I don't know about the half.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Day of Ascension.
It is Day of Ascension.
Yeah. What are we doing next?
What are we doing next? That is a good question.
I will tell you that it is not Horus fighting the Emperor.
No, it is
Sadly.
not.
I just want it
the
so
next
bad.
Siege of Terror book is not out yet.
I know.
I think our next one is going to be Assassinorum Kingmaker by Robert Rath.
Sounds good.
I've heard good stuff about this book.
Okay.
And Robert Rath is one that we've enjoyed a fair bit.
Sounds like a spy mystery. A little bit spy, a little bit mystery.
Yeah,
a little
I think
bit
that's
political
fair.
intrigue.
He wrote The Infinite and the Divine.
Okay. Yeah, I could be down with that.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
All right.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.